Part 97. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 961. Poison True Dragon. Zuyun stared, as if unable to accept this fact. How could a perfectly good dragon turn into a poisonous dragon? You can be any kind of dragon, just use poison. Master, there is nothing we can do about this, Xiaohe sighed and said, previously, after the incarnation took me out of the Hualong Pond, he came directly here in order to hide the Dao-glazed mirror. And in order to deter these poisonous dragons, he forced me to swallow 2 poisonous dragons. This is an irreversible fact. From my dragon vein inheritance, I know that the attributes of the newborn true dragon will be ours for the first time. The attributes in the future. I have always wanted to find suitable attributes to cultivate, and I am not in a hurry because of the dragon transformation pond, but who would have thought that something like this would happen? Zuyun was speechless, and after a moment he asked, what then? Then, after the incarnation hid Dao-glazed, he returned to Liukan. Who would have thought that he would encounter the Chaos Sword on the way? I slipped out while he was taking the Chaos Sword. The reason why I returned to Poison Dragon Pond was actually for this purpose. Find the Dawu glazed mirror, and then take the mirror with me to find you. Xiaohe narrated what happened. Even Zuyun was frightened when he heard it. If you are not careful, Xiaohe may die here. Fortunately, he came in time. Master, I know where the poisonous dragon hides the Dao-glazed mirror. Can I take you to find it? Xiaohe looked at the poisonous dragon outside with some reluctance. Zuyun suddenly understood and said, do you want to continue to devour those poisonous dragons? Xiaohe nodded quickly and said, Master, since I can't change the fact that I have poison attributes, I might as well let more of these poisons come. Not only these poison dragons, but also this poison dragon pond. Poison dragon pond. Zuyun looked at the well that Xiaohe was pointing at, and suddenly remembered that Feng Tianyan was only contaminated with a few drops and almost died. He couldn't help but worry, you want to swallow all this poison? Can your body bear it? As long as my poison is strong enough, this poison dragon pond can't do anything to me. And, as long as I hide in the dragon transformation pond, I can safely use all the poisonous power for my own use. Zuyun pondered for a moment and said, in this case, you tell me the location of the Dao-glazed mirror, and you will devour the poison dragon here first. I will come to find you then, but before that, you are not allowed to touch the poison dragon pond. Xiaohe said that he needed to transform into a dragon pond to protect his safety, so Zuyun naturally wanted to warn Xiaohe. Master, of course I don't have to. Xiaohe also nodded quickly. Without the Hualong Pond, of course he would not dare to do this. After telling Zuyun the location of the hidden Dao-glazed mirror, one person and one dragon were temporarily separated. Zuyun walked through these poisonous dragons without any mercy in his eyes. Every poisonous dragon wants to swallow Xiaohe's blood first before gathering here. Zuyun left the confines of the secret room without even looking at them. Xiaohe, on the other hand, transformed into his true form again. All poisonous dragons here will become his source of power. The place where the Dao-glazed mirror is hidden is not very mysterious, it is just under the head of the main hall of the Dragon Palace. There is a formation shield here, so Zuyun cannot sense where the mirror is. The reason why Xiaohe knew it was because he completely devoured the poisonous dragon Demon King and obtained all his memories, so he was able to tell Zuyun. Zuyun blasted the seat open, revealing the entrance to a secret room underneath. At the same time, a familiar colorful glazed light also shined through it. Zuyun was immediately overjoyed and quickly stepped into it. In the dark secret room, there was no need to search for the location of the glass mirror, and Zuyun did not even need to go there. As long as he moved his mind, the glass mirror naturally flew to Zuyun's chest. I really miss it. Zuyun smiled slightly, stretched out his hand and stroked his chest. The familiar feeling came from his hand, and Zuyun took out the other fragment. The fragment was in Zuyun's hand, but the Diwu glazed mirror still didn't respond. Zuyun had discovered the problem a long time ago, so he didn't find it strange, but continued to place the fragment against the Diwu glass mirror. Boom! The moment they touched, the Diwu glazed mirror and the fragments emitted colorful glazed light at the same time. At the same moment, Zuyun appeared in the immortal mansion. I saw that on the other side of the void at the entrance to the universe world, an exquisite small house flew from the void. The momentum was so great that all the elixirs also looked towards that place. Master, did you find the fragments of the immortal emperor's bedroom? Huang Longshu asked in surprise. Bedroom. Zuyun smiled and said, I don't know either, but it should be the bedroom. It's still a bit far away, so I can't see clearly. But judging from the location, it should be. Hongye was actually a little excited and said, if it's the bedroom, I wonder if I can meet Sister Xiaoxiao. Zuyun still kept a smile on his face. Are you talking about Nujiao? Huh. Several fairy medicine plants that turned into human forms looked at Zuyun in unison. Hongye didn't say Xiaojiao's name, but Zuyun called it out. Could it be that? Master, have you seen Sister Xiaoxiao? Jingyuanko asked excitedly. That's natural, otherwise how would I know her name? Seeing Zuyun's affirmative answer, all the elixirs started dancing with excitement. This made Zuyun couldn't help but wonder, isn't Nujiao always trapped in the bedroom? Why does she look like they have a good relationship at this time? Master, Huang Longshu said with a smile, Nujiao has been serving the immortal emperor. If she is still here, you may be able to know more about the immortal emperor. Zuyun was stunned. Could it be that this is the reason for these fairy medicines? After coming back to his senses, Zuyun said, Old Shu, how much do you know about Nujiao? Huang Longshu pondered for a moment and said, I don't know much, because not long after Nujiao arrived, she was placed in the bedroom by the immortal emperor and became the immortal emperor's personal maid. However, Nujiao seems to be a born demon fairy. Zuyun knows this. The demon immortal and the demon immortal use demons to prove the Tao and become immortals. Why did the immortal emperor accept a demon fairy as his maid? Do the good and the evil in the immortal world get along so harmoniously? How can good and evil be in harmony? Huang Longshu shook his head and said, Master, the demons in the immortal world are not the monks who practice demons in the lower world. The demons in the immortal world are demons. What? Zuyun's expression changed drastically and he said, Why haven't I heard you say that before? Huang Longshu smiled bitterly and said, Master, it's not that I deliberately concealed it, but if you know about the demons, it will only make you more troubled. Why should I say it again? There are no demons in the lower world. These so-called demons, the demonic path of cultivation, they are thousands of miles apart from the demons. I planned to talk to you about the race in the fairy world after you arrived, but I didn't expect that you actually found the bedroom, and Nujiao was still fine. So, Nujiao is from the demon clan. Zuyun is concerned about this issue. But, Nujiao looks just like a human being. Yes, Nujiao is a demon. As for why the immortal emperor brought her back, now that the immortal emperor is dead, I am not afraid to tell what happened to the immortal emperor at that time. Huang Longshu sighed and said, Nujiao is the proud daughter of the holy demon clan. After meeting the immortal emperor by chance, the immortal emperor was attracted by her eyes and fell deeply into it. Later, he learned Nujiao's identity. However, the immortal emperor ignored everyone's objections and actually committed suicide in the holy demon clan and kidnapped Nujiao. Robbery. Zuyun took a breath. Could such a thing happen in the fairy world? Absolutely. Huang Longshu shook his head and said, this is what Nujiao told me personally, but I don't know the details. Zuyun was a little unbelievable because he had seen Nujiao's deep love for the immortal emperor. Nujiao was also moved by the immortal emperor's affection and promised to become the immortal queen. But who would have thought that on the day of the wedding, the immortal emperor invited prominent figures from all over the immortal world, but he suddenly woke up come over. He was not deeply in love with Nujiao, but simply fell into her evil eyes. So, he broke up the marriage, but he didn't want to let Nujiao return to the Holy Demon clan. Use the weapon to gouge out her magic eye. Finally, put the magic weapon and Nujiao's magic eye together and throw them into the void. Zuyun was extremely shocked. He didn't expect Nujiao's life experience. So pitiful. What he didn't expect was that the immortal emperor was so heartless. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 962. Master, are you surprised? Seeing Zuyun's expression, Huang Longshu asked quietly. Zuyun nodded. He had never seen such a heartless person before. I thought that the immortal emperor was also an outstanding person, so affectionate and sincere that he even went into the depths of the demon clan for the demon clan woman he fell in love with. But in the end, it was all a lie. Actually, we have always felt that Nujiao is very pitiful. Without those magic eyes, Nujiao is no different from ordinary people. In other words, Nujiao is not even as good as ordinary immortals. In fact, we all think that the immortal emperor can be like this. The slave is married. Zuyun also felt that what Huang Longshu said was indeed reasonable. It's just that the immortal emperor once said something later that if Nujiao became the immortal queen, he would be looked down upon by all the immortals in the immortal world. He couldn't afford to lose face, so he hid Nujiao in the bedroom and lied again. Zhen Nujiao is dead. Zuyun frowned and asked, how did the holy demon race react? I don't know about this. No outsiders have ever come to this immortal mansion, so no one knows whether Nujiao is alive or dead. It all depends on the immortal emperor's words. According to my guess, even if the holy demon clan wants to hold the immortal emperor accountable, it will not work. Because the immortal emperor is in the southern immortal realm, and the holy demon tribe is in the deep sea of stars. If this were not the case, the holy demon tribe would never have let it go. Zuyun said, it turns out that it's not that the holy demon clan can swallow this breath, but that it's actually more difficult to break into the immortal realm. Indeed, Huang Longshu said, it is extremely difficult to get out of the sea of stars, and if they want to invade the southern immortal territory, it is actually unwise. What's more, the southern immortal territory is vast and boundless. How do they find the immortal emperor? Furthermore, the immortal emperor's strength is also at the top of the immortal world. If the holy demon clan wants to directly kill the immortal emperor, they will have to dispatch several demon lords. But if there are too many demon lords, they will naturally be discovered by the people in the immortal world. So this matter ended up being settled. Zuyun frowned and said, then why was the immortal emperor so powerful and finally fell? This. Hearing Zuyun's question, Huang Longshu was also stunned. Indeed, the immortal emperor was very strong, but why did the immortal emperor die? Even the universe-glazed realm was destroyed. Master, I don't know. Anyway, the fairy world is not peaceful. Maybe it's the holy demon clan, maybe it's other demon tribes, or maybe it's other fairy realms, or even some loose immortals. There are always people coveting the position of emperor. Who can guarantee that? Zuyun sighed. Huang Longshu's words were as good as unsaid. After thinking for a moment, he asked again, do you know of any great master in the immortal world who is an immortal who cultivates the power of the 5 elements? I don't know, I've never heard of it. Huang Longshu shook his head. Zuyun was not disappointed, so he just asked casually. Nujiao has been following the immortal emperor in the bedroom. She has only heard of such an immortal, but she doesn't even know what the immortal's name is. Huang Longshu doesn't know, so it's not surprising. At this time, the bedroom finally flew here and was completely connected with the immortal mansion. A group of elixirs rushed over. Zuyun also walked up quickly and walked straight to the door. Previously, among these fragments, opening the door was void, and the power of chaos would invade. At this time, it is connected with the immortal mansion, and it is no different from the alchemy room. Move over, I'll open the door. Zuyun chuckled, and the group of elixirs made way for them, watching Zuyun open the door to the house. Master. Nujiao smiled lightly and was already standing behind the door. Seeing a group of elixirs that had turned into human forms, he was slightly startled, and then smiled and said, "Sisters, long time no see." "Sister Xiaoxiao." Hongya and others said in unison. Nujiao nodded lightly, then looked at Zuyun and said, "Master, there is a restriction in this room. You need to unlock it before I can come out." "Restricted?" Zuyun touched his nose and said helplessly, "I don't know how to unlock this restriction." Nujiao asked strangely, "Why can't you solve it? Aren't you the current master of the immortal emperor?" Zuyun shook his head and smiled bitterly, "I really don't know, but I should be able to enter the house, right?" The same was true for the alchemy room before, and Fen Tian couldn't get out. When talking about Fen Tianyan, Zuyun also frowned and looked inside his body a little. The situation was considered stable, but Fen Tianyan showed no signs of improvement and was still hiding at the bottom of the lotus pot extremely weakly. It is not an exaggeration to say that he is dying. Withdrawing from his mind, Zuyun looked at Nujiao, then at the fairy medicines, and said, "You guys have a try, can you go in?" It can be seen from the previous reactions to these elixirs that they have a very good relationship with Nujiao. Even Huang Longshu talks about it with regret at most. "Probably not," Huang Longshu said at this time, "it seems that we cannot enter these houses and the cave where the immortal emperor retreats and practices. It should be a restriction set by the immortal emperor. In addition to staying in the medicine garden, they sit on the edge of the void to absorb and refine the chaotic power of the void. The farthest is just walking to Sword Mountain and taking a look at Hualong Pond. It's better than not being able to meet each other," Zuyun said with a smile. "No one will bother you in the immortal mansion anyway. If you want to reminisce, you can only talk through the door. I have something else to do, so I'll leave for now." Nujiao told him that she wanted to ask Huang Longshu something. He was indeed busy with something, so he left the immortal mansion directly without staying here. After reappearing in the dark secret room, Zuyun let go of his spiritual sense and took a clear look at the situation in the entire secret room. In addition to some scattered spiritual stones, there are also some materials, which are also rare resources in the mortal world. Zuyun thought to himself that the Poison Dragon clan was going to be exterminated anyway, so he might as well accept them all. He put everything into the ring without looking carefully, then walked out of it and went straight to Xiao Hei's place. Xiao Hei had already devoured half of the poisonous dragons, and the originally dark and shiny dragon scales turned faintly green. Zuyun didn't bother. It wasn't until several hours later that Xiao Hei had devoured all the poisonous dragons that he asked, "Xiao Hei, forget it, I'll call you Xiao Lu from now on." Zuyun could see that Xiao Hei was in good condition, so he couldn't help but make a joke. Xiao Hei smiled helplessly and said, "Master, don't make fun of me, I'm not that green yet." Indeed, Xiao Hei only glowed green, but his body was still the original black. "You are not green enough, which means your current toxicity is not strong enough. Now that the poisonous dragon is gone, you should swallow this poisonous dragon pool, right?" Zuyun pointed to the well and said, "As long as the master retrieves the Dewu glazed mirror, then I can naturally start." Xiao Hei's face couldn't help but become serious, but he didn't act in a hurry, but told him that he asked Lu Ruyan to wait for him outside. Zuyun nodded, indicating that he understood, and then said, "The Dewu glazed mirror is back." If you swallow this poisonous dragon pond, I will take you to the Hualong pond immediately. Okay, Xiao He said in surprise with a green light in his eyes, then I'll bother you, master. After saying that, Xiao He turned around and a green light appeared all over his body. Then he opened his huge mouth and took a deep breath at the poison dragon pond. Dragon sucks water. I saw that the clear venom in the poison dragon pond flew out of a water column and entered Xiao Hei's mouth. Zuyun did not dare to neglect and hurriedly walked to the well. When the well was completely dry and all the venom was absorbed by Xiao Hei, he immediately took Xiao Hei into the fairy mansion. As soon as he came out of the cave, Zuyun saw Xiao Hei, who was either unconscious or asleep, lying in the open space outside the cave. It scared the crowd of elixirs far away in the bedroom. This is Xiao Hei, don't panic. Zuyun said casually, picked up Xiao Hei, and Fei took advantage of the sword mountain to throw the whole body of Xiao Hei into the dragon transformation pond. Thump. There was a huge splash in Hualong pond, and Xiao Hei also sank into it. But after a long time, Hualong pond didn't stop, it kept ripples, and the momentum was extremely huge. Should it be okay? Zuyun stared at the Hualong pond for a long time, and found that there was no other abnormality in the Hualong pond, and he gradually felt relieved. Maybe, as Xiao He said, the power of Hualong pond could help him completely absorb the venom. It's time to go find Lu Ruyan next, but before that, I should restore the chaos power first. Looking at the almost empty 26 lotus hearts, Zuyun and Huang Longshu said something, then sat directly on the edge of the void and began to refine the chaos power of the void. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 963. Is he kind to you? Nujiao glanced at Zuyun, lowered her voice, and spoke to the group of elixirs. Okay, pretty good. Hongyi seemed to be a careless female cultivator and spoke frankly. Jing Yuanko also nodded beside him, but Xue Jinseng spoke openly and said, at first, I thought he was quite bad. When he came, he chopped off my beards with a sword. Later, I thought he was pretty good. This is because you know that the master is using your ginseng to refine medicine to save people. Compared to the immortal emperor who plans to refine all of your ginseng, of course you will feel better about him. The rainbow leaves on the side sneered. Blood Ginseng was dissatisfied and said, Sister Hongyi, don't blame me. Didn't you yourself give him a few leaves? Hongye Jiao smiled and said, that's what I gave it willingly. Haven't you seen it? Now it's almost all grown out. Huh, you guys have all the good and bad things to say. Looking at these noisy immortals, Nujiao looked at Huang Longshu and said, Old Shu, what do you think? Huang Longshu didn't answer the question, are you still blind? I can't see you. I can only feel that you have turned into human forms. Otherwise, I would definitely want to see what you look like. Huang Longshu sighed, that's right, otherwise you will definitely know that we followed him and lived a good life. You also know that the immortal emperor planted us here, except for the blood ginseng, because he actually wanted us to transform as soon as possible. And then you can help him fight. But Zuyun, the master has never had such an idea. So, is he okay? Nujiao was silent for a moment and said, I heard him say that we are still in the lower realm. Yes, the lower realm, if your guess is correct, it should be in Huangxingxing. A yellow level world star? It's no wonder that he, a monk from the lower realm, can obtain this treasure and practice it safely. How much do you know about the yellow star? I don't know. I followed him out before, but the spiritual energy of this world star is too lacking. I think it is most likely on the edge of the fairy world, may be relatively close to the Demon Star Sea. Demon Star Sea is the collective name for all demon clan gathering places. Demon Star Sea. Nujiao smiled bitterly and said, "You tell me this because you want me to return to the demon clan." Huang Longshu said, "It's useless for you to stay here, and the immortal emperor is dead. Is there still you here worth missing? It's better to go back to the demon clan, that's where you should exist." Alas, Nujiao smiled miserably and said, "Although I am the proud daughter of the holy demon clan, everything is related to the demon eye. Now that the demon eye is gone and the magic weapon is gone, I am no different from a mortal in the lower world. At most, the demon soul is stronger. Not to mention this, when I followed the immortal emperor from the demon star sea to the southern immortal realm without hesitation, I had already lost the face of the entire demon clan. Do you think I can go back? But you stay here." Huang Longshu stopped talking. Nujiao couldn't help but smile and said, "Don't you think he is very good? Then I will stay in the bedroom. Maybe one day, I will have a new opportunity." She learned a lot about Zuyun from Huang Longshu, which made her more determined to stay in the immortal mansion. Furthermore, even if she wanted to leave, how could she return to the Demon Star Sea and the Holy Demon Clan? Not to mention, now in the lower realm, he is still a yellow-level world star. This is the most inconspicuous existence in the fairy world. At any time, he may be annihilated into ashes by the two great masters of the immortal world fighting each other. At the same time, the spiritual world is deep in the sky and beyond. The great changes in Kunlun, could it be that my opportunity is coming? In a towering mountain peak, the dragon demon emperor sat on his dragon chair. He held his chin in one hand and played with the dragon suppressing stone with the other hand. After Ye Yuan defeated the Xianxia platform and caused the sky to fall to the ground, he had been trying to find out where the strange phenomenon was. However, nothing happened. After waiting for a long time, there was no change. This wore down his patience. "Your Majesty," a dragon demon king said, "we can't understand these phenomena, and they are man-made. Perhaps, if you ask Ye Yuan, you might be able to tell something." Ye Yuan. The dragon demon emperor pondered, "Ye Yuan is strangers to me and has a weird personality. He went there rashly. What if he hits me with a hammer? How should we deal with this?" As he spoke, he glared at the tribesman who made the remarks, showing no anger and intimidation, which scared the tribesman to the point where he quickly knelt down on the ground. Dragon King, at this time, the Zhangdao Venerable standing beside him said, "You don't know Ye Yuan, but I do. How about I accompany you to take a look? Although Ye Yuan is strong, he can if you and I join forces, I'm afraid he won't dare to do anything randomly, right?" "Dirty thing, it's not that I don't believe you. You know Ye Yuan. What if you join forces with him? If I am right, you have been coveting my treasure for a long time, right?" "Dragon Emperor, this is absolutely not the case. You also know that I have no interest in these treasures at all now. I only want to find a disciple with good bones so that I can spread my dirty ways." The Zhangdao master hurriedly defended. "This is true," the dragon demon emperor muttered to himself, and then said, "That's okay. In 2 days, we will go to the northern icefield together and meet Ye Yuan for a while. I would like to see if he is you don't really dare to hit me with a hammer." The dragon emperor would never dare to touch a hammer that could destroy the immortal platform. And the reason why I said this was actually to say it to Master Zhangdao, so that he would be afraid. The dragon demon king got up and left. After walking for a long time, he arrived at a cave on the mountain peak. With the dragon suppression stone as a guide, he set up a dragon trap array. Then he carefully took out a colorful fragment and flashed into it. When the light faded, the dragon suppression stone could not help but exclaimed, "This seems similar to the feeling that Zuyun's world gave me. Could it be that this is also one of the fragments of the treasure?" He was greedy and wanted to take the fragment away and give it to Zuyun. But when he thought about it, one was that he didn't know where Zuyun was, and the other was that even if he took the fragment, the Dragon Demon King might come out at any time. How would he deal with it at that time, and how would Zuyun deal with it? No, let's bear it first. A little impatience will ruin a big plan. At least, the Dragon Demon King hasn't noticed me yet. Even if I don't take it, I have to find a good opportunity just to escape. Isn't he going to the North Ice Field? Let's see if he can seek protection from Yuan. In the fragments, the Dragon Demon King was surrounded by emptiness. In front of him was a 3-story low tower. On the tower door, there were 3 big characters. Pearl Pavilion. I have refined all 7 dragon beads, but I am still a long way from becoming a real dragon. Do I have to refine all the spirit beads? Pushing the door and entering, there was a wooden shelf on the first floor of the pavilion. On the wooden shelf, some round beads were neatly placed. However, these beads did not have any immortal power or spirit power surging. These were the most ordinary beads. But because they were beautiful, they were collected by the Immortal Emperor. The Demon Dragon Emperor also knew that these beads were just for eye-catching purposes. Anyway, he liked them very much, so even if they were useless for cultivation, he kept them and did not throw them away. Entering the second floor. The space was a little smaller, and beads were also placed on the wooden shelf. There were all kinds of colors. And in the middle, there were 2 beads, one black and one bright. I can recognize the beads of gold, wood, water, fire, earth, and even wind, thunder and poison, so why can't I feel the spiritual power of these 2 beads of light and darkness? After standing still for a long time, the Demon Dragon Emperor finally reached the 3rd floor. There are also many beads on this floor. But each bead has a different aura, regardless of spiritual power or immortal power. There are 7 vacancies on one of the wooden racks. This was originally where the 7 dragon beads were placed. It was from these dragon beads that the Dragon Demon Emperor felt the dragon power, so he had the courage to swallow and refine them one after another. After swallowing the first dragon ball, he broke through to the Demon Saint realm directly. After tasting the sweetness, he swallowed all 7 dragon balls one after another. So, his strength has also reached the peak of the Demon Saint realm incredibly. But he knows that if he wants to survive the demon calamity and ascend to heaven as a real dragon, he still needs one step. That's why he wants to keep looking for the visions in the spiritual world and find opportunities from them. But many years have passed, and he has never found anything. This time the ascension platform was destroyed and the heaven beyond heaven fell, which made him vaguely feel that his chance to become an immortal might be approaching. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 964. Could it be related to the totem pole? After standing still in front of the wooden frame for a long time, the Dragon Demon King walked to a corner of the attic. If you don't look closely, you won't be able to find a stone pillar at all. On the top of the stone pillar, there is a lifelike dragon head carved. Looking at this, it seems to be exactly the same as the Demon Dragon King. Destiny, destiny. It is said that our 12 major demon tribes carry destiny. But I have never been able to find the destiny. Even after swallowing 7 dragon balls, I can't feel what destiny this totem pole has. The Dragon Demon King, who racked his brains but couldn't figure it out, suddenly became furious and stretched out his palm to slap the totem pole. But this totem pole, like a dead object, didn't react at all. What's more mysterious is that even if the Dragon Demon King tried his best, he couldn't blast a crack on this totem pole. I don't need you to give me immortality. The Dragon Demon King was like a madman. He suddenly clenched his hands tightly on the head of the totem column, glared at the dragon head, and said, "Take back the immortality you gave me, take it back. Is it because of your inheritance that I can never get rid of the blood of the demon dragon?" This pearl pavilion is full of treasures, and the 7 dragon beads also contain the power of the real dragon. Even so, I can't transform into a real dragon. Tell me, is it you, is it you? The dragon demon king, who had been pent up for many years, was venting all of it uncontrollably at this time. Fortunately, no one could come in here, otherwise people who saw it would not believe that the dragon demon king also had such a crazy side. After roaring for a long time, the dragon demon king suddenly sat down on the ground dejectedly, and the dragon head column was still intact. However, there was a change. The stone dragon head actually showed a mocking sneer and stared at the dragon demon king. If you laugh again, believe it or not, I will throw you into this void. The dragon demon king seemed to be used to it. He stood up again, grabbed the dragon head pillar and roared loudly. But the more intense his reaction was, the more obvious the dragon head pillar's ridicule was. Do you really think I don't dare? At most, I can use the demon dragon to overcome the heavenly tribulation and find the method of turning into a dragon in the fairy world. There is a dragon transformation pool in the fairy world. I can also turn into a real dragon by looking for the dragon transformation pool. The dragon demon king could no longer bear it. He pinched the dragon head pillar with one hand and ran downstairs and ran straight out of the pavilion. See, this endless void. I'm going to throw you in, and I won't have to face your annoying smile anymore. The dragon demon king roared and threw the dragon head pillar into the void. Under the huge force, the dragon head pillar flew away, and soon sank into some chaotic forces, and then disappeared. The dragon demon king stared blankly, feeling lost in his heart. When he was in Dongsheng realm, he was immortal, all because of this dragon head pillar. No one knows the purpose of his coming to the spirit world. In fact, it was not designed by the nightmare demon. Instead, he discovered a secret. In the inheritance, the totem pillar only said that the demon king who obtained immortality could not continue to practice in Dongsheng realm, but it did not say that he could not practice in the spirit world. He took advantage of the loophole and took the risk to pass the cliff of heaven with his whole family. The cliff of heaven connects to the depths of the outer world. The dragon demon emperor took the remaining demon dragons to find a deeper place and took root. It was also at that time that he picked up this fragment and then found the dragon ball in it. The dragon power in the dragon ball is extremely strong, but fortunately this fragment is originally part of the immortal palace. Although the dragon demon emperor did not completely refine it, he only needs to enter and exit freely. Moreover, even if this fragment is refined, it is of no use to him. The biggest surprise that the fragment gave him was that in this space, there is a time flow difference with the outside world, and it will not be disturbed. This simply complements the dragon ball. In this way, the dragon demon king would be able to cultivate to the top of the demon saint in just a few thousand years. Originally, he just wanted to ascend to immortality. But after swallowing the dragon ball, he truly felt the horror of the power of the real dragon, and also knew the difference between ascending as a real dragon and ascending as a demon dragon. With the final push and enough lifespan, he naturally wanted to achieve that step. But no matter what he did, he couldn't take this step. This made his emotions a little out of control, and finally threw the totem pole that had accompanied him for 10,000 years into the void. Throw it away. Maybe throwing away the totem pole is equivalent to throwing away the constraints of this destiny. Don't humans often say? Cultivating immortals is going against the will of heaven. And my destiny is determined by me, not by heaven. What destiny? Get out of this emperor. Perhaps this totem pole has always been a nightmare that has troubled the dragon demon king. Not long after it was thrown out, he suddenly became determined. Just as he said this to the void, a stream of light came through the layers of clouds and mist in the distance and attacked him. Totem pole. The dragon demon king's face changed immediately. The clouds and mist in the void were naturally the chaotic force. The dragon demon king knew the power of these chaotic forces. He didn't know what was good for him and wanted to remove these clouds and mist. As a result, he was injured by these forces and recovered for a full 100 years. But what is that dark stream of light? It can break through the clouds and mist. And the most important thing is that this black light is coming towards him. Could it be that he threw the totem pole and then attracted the other party's revenge? Impossible. The Dragon Demon King quickly denied this idea, but he also knew that it was not suitable to stay here for a long time. Maybe he should leave here first and avoid the sharp edge. Thinking of this, the Dragon Demon King flashed and left the Pearl Pavilion. And a moment later, the stream of light rushed straight over, and finally rushed in from the window on the third floor of the attic. Crack! The stream of light smashed into a row of wooden frames, and many beads scattered in all directions. There is no need to wait for 2 days. Throwing the totem pole makes me feel much happier. Maybe I can still gain something by going to Yayuan directly at this time. After leaving the Kangzhou Pavilion, the Dragon Demon Emperor made a decision, put away the fragments and the dragon suppressing stone, and came to the main hall. Normally, he would hide the fragments here, but he was going to the Arctic icefield next, and might ascend at any time. Naturally, he had to carry a treasure like the fragments with him. Moreover, he also planned to wait until he was free before going inside to see if the stream of light had hit the Pearl Pavilion. If so, was there any damage? Dragon King, so fast? Didn't you say 2 days? Zhangdao Venerable was a little surprised. Why don't you go early and come back early? The Dragon Demon Emperor just glanced at him lightly. He has been hiding his stupidity. In fact, Zhangdao Venerable's apparent strength could not do anything to him. Even the 18 touches of the Zhangdao were deliberately left by the Dragon Demon Emperor so that the master of the Zhangdao could leave imprints of the spiritual power of the Zhangdao on his body. If he is too strong, I am afraid that the Zhangdao master will feel threatened and will not want to work with him. That's okay, Zhangdao Venerable thought for a while and said, although Yayuan easily destroyed the immortal platform, I think he also suffered some losses. If he wants to recover, it won't be that fast. Zhangdao Venerable also has a plan in mind. If he could join forces with the Dragon King to kill Yayuan, then he could capture Zuyun again. At that time, he would not give Zuyun another chance and directly wash away his spiritual roots with the spiritual water, and then transfer all his cultivation to him. In the end, I simply went through the tribulation directly in the Arctic icefield. Then let's go. The Dragon Demon Emperor waved his hand and dodged away. The next moment, a giant dragon appeared in the sky. The Zhangdao master was stunned and said in shock, Dragon King, is this too high profile? The Dragon Demon Emperor laughed and said, it's just enough to shock those young people in the Five Elements sect, isn't it good? Zhangdao Zun's expression was incomprehensible. The Five Elements sect was naturally unhappy, but the Five Elements Senran had been killed by Yayuan, and they obviously couldn't stand up. And he has no grudge against the Five Elements sect. But then again, it seems like that boy Zuyun. It's also the 5 spiritual powers. But unfortunately, they have nothing to do with each other. After thinking about it, the Zhangdao master couldn't think of anything, so he simply turned into a black shadow and followed closely. And in the northern ice field, in the deep cave, Feng'an and Huatutui came to Yayuan with 2 swords in hand. Senior Ye, can you help me? Yayuan glanced at him lazily, turned over and sat up, and said, you are not in the nascent soul stage, so don't even think about refining this wind and thunder sword. Feng'an he smiled bitterly and said, but precisely because I am in the nascent soul stage, I need a good sword to refine, so that I can go to the 9 Netherland to find my wife and children as soon as possible. Your wife and children? Yayuan was stunned, but immediately became interested. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 965. Yes, my wife and children. As soon as Nangongting Feng and Feng Qingyang were mentioned, Feng Anhe suddenly became very happy, but in this excited look, he couldn't help but feel a little worried. But he didn't know that Feng Qingyang was left in the Sword Valley. In the Sword Valley, the last nascent soul stage was also beheaded by Zhu Yun. On the contrary, he was at the peak of the late stage of pill formation and had spiritual weapons such as the flying shuttle. While protecting himself without any worries, he was able to gain a foothold in the Sword Valley. Feng Anhe thought that Feng Qingyang had been following Nangongting Feng. He didn't know Ye Yuan's personality, but he knew that Ye Yuan would never hurt anyone without reason, otherwise, he would not be released from the heavenly painting scroll. However, he also said it selectively, thus winning Ye Yuan's favor. And he did. Because Ye Yuan was a deeply affectionate person, otherwise he would not have allowed Zhu Yun to go to Bifan realm to look for Lu Ruyan. After hearing Feng Anhe's slightly modified experience, Ye Yuan said, "Little old man, it's not that I won't help you, it's really that with your current state, it's really too difficult to refine all these two swords. However, I have an idea. What do you think?" Ye Yuan's attitude towards Feng Anhe also changed slightly, and when he heard that Ye Yuan was willing to give his opinion, Feng Anhe naturally agreed. "Senior, please speak." Ye Yuan stretched out his hand, and there was a long silver sword in his hand, and then it was stuffed into his hand, and he said with a smile, "Although this sword is not a peerless sword, for you at the nascent soul stage, it is. It's enough. Moreover, you are also proficient in sword refining. Maybe you can refine it a little more to make it more useful. You can keep this wind and thunder sword with me and wait for you when the time comes. As your realm grows, you can wield these swords. How about I return them to you?" "Okay, okay." Feng Anhe nodded like mashed garlic. At that time, he had no choice when refining the sword body into the sword magic weapon, especially when he stole the true dragon wind sword. Now that there is a more suitable choice, of course he will give up. Besides, Ye Yuan just said to keep it with him, which couldn't be better. "That's very good," Ye Yuan said with a smile. "However, there is no rush to go to the Nine Netherlands. You need to disconnect the soul connection with the sword body and then combine with the silver sword. Don't worry, I can do it to protect you, I can also heal your wounds." For Feng Anhe, this happiness came so suddenly. He had no other thoughts at all and just disconnected from the sword body without hesitation. He was seriously injured, but he was not worried, and Ye Yuan kept his word. After a few days, Feng Anhe recovered as before, and refined the silver sword into a natal thunder sword. After tempering it twice, he named it Silver Wind Sword. "Okay, we have a long way to go in the Nine Netherlands, but I still need to stay here and cannot leave without authorization. I will give you something to help you on your journey without worries." Ye Yuan took out some magic weapons, including spiritual weapons and magic weapons. There is a dazzling array of items, but each one is a rare item, and its functions are unheard of in Feng Anhe. "You're welcome, go quickly. If you can find your wife and children but have nowhere to go, you can come here and let me take a look." Feng Anhe burst into tears with gratitude. He thought that he would be in trouble after arriving in the spirit world, but he never thought that he would meet a good person. It seems that not everyone in the spiritual world is so heartless. With such emotion, Feng Anhe boarded a flying boat. Ye Yuan personally blasted away the snow outside the cave. After watching him leave, he murmured, "Oh, it's hard to find someone to relieve my boredom." Now he's sent away again. Is it possible that I want to chat with that sword embryo? It's better to chat with someone than to have no one to talk to. Jian embryo is just a sword embryo. Let me see where the remaining souls are entangled. It's the most interesting one, so give him a hand. Ye Yuan returned to the cave and activated the large formation here. After the entrance of the cave was covered with snow again, he sat on the ground. In front of him are the wind and thunder sword and the sword embryo. He concentrated for a moment, took the sword embryo, and completely absorbed his soul into it. Two blues, one dark and one light, are completely intertwined with the other golden. Interesting, the dark blue is wind, the light blue is ice, and the gold is naturally gold. Yun seemed to have seen an interesting drama. He did not rush to take action, but waited and watched what happened. He didn't know that the Zhangdao Master and the Dragon Demon Emperor had also left Tianweishan and were heading here. Dongfan Realm, Yusha Realm. Wia, do you really want to go to Juyu Land? Luo Yanran looked at his disciple with some reluctance. She knew that Meng Wei's temperament would not change easily once something was decided. Master, Meng Wei said with a smile, we are not going to the depths, so don't worry. We are just helping Ergu break through. Look, isn't the big dog going with us? Luo Yanran was silent, looked at Ergu, and said, Ergu has practiced Yaluo demonic art, but the breakthrough is not to go to the 9 Netherlands. This time the depths are opened again, and it is inevitable that there will be some powerful demons. The beast comes from the spirit world, I'm afraid you can't fight it. The implication is that they are worried that they will not be able to cope. Master, don't worry. The three of us have been practicing the art of combined attack during this period. Although our methods are different, we can complement each other. Meng Wei's skills at this time were all on the Sky Fire Dragon. She specialized in one area. Her spiritual fire symbiosis technique was no exaggeration to say that Zuyun was not as good as her regardless of her level. Ergu is practicing Yaluo Demon Kung Fu. Because it is difficult to break through the realm, he keeps practicing the technique repeatedly, which actually makes him perfect. As for Daegu, he knew that the way to swordsmanship depends on perseverance. He knew that his talent was not enough, so he worked hard to get it. Anyone who has 3,000 avenues can become an immortal, so if he only practices one sword technique and practices it to the extreme, I believe he can also break through the barriers above the realm. Therefore, he continued to practice Wanjianshan's sword overlord technique. Now both of them are at the peak of the late stage of pill formation. Meng Wei could have left long ago, but Zuyun said that she could take care of the two of them, so she would stay. Big Dog and Ergu also knew that they were holding Meng Wei back, so they practiced day and night. Even on the way from Dongsheng Realm to Peepa Realm to Yusha Realm, they never gave up. It was also the time when the 9 Netherlands was reopened, so they wanted to go in and experience it, seeking opportunities for breakthroughs in the life and death battle. But obviously, Luo Yanran misunderstood and thought that Meng Wei wanted to take the two of them to the spirit world. I'm afraid that you will force your way into the 9 Netherlands. Luo Yanran sighed and said, Wei, and Daegu Ergu, I know you want to find Zuyun. But I still want to tell you, some things, haste makes waste. Remember? After saying that, she looked at Meng Wei again and said, it just so happens that your uncle Xiu also wants to experience it, so why not let her go with you, and she will also have someone to take care of you, how about that? Of course you can. Uncle Xiu is very strong. It would be great if we could go with him. Meng Wei happily agreed. A few hours later, a group of 4 people sat on the magic seal and flew towards the 9 Netherlands. Soon, I saw a city on the road. The shape of the city was strange, it was in the shape of a sword. The big dog was immersed in the art of swordsmanship, so he naturally took another look. Fellow Daoist Baishi, this is Silver Sword City. I remember when Zuyun and I were chased by the Silver Sword Demon Lord and a group of disciples of the Silver Sword Demon section. In the end, Zuyun rescued me on his own. Xiu said with a smile. Ergu was surprised and asked, but why is there a statue of Zuyun there? Everyone followed Ergu's hand and found a giant statue of more than 10 feet, exactly like Zuyun holding a sword. Perhaps, it was Zuyun who saved the entire mortal world, and everyone is grateful to him, right? Meng Wei murmured, and the four people on top of the magic seal fell silent, but there was endless emotion in their hearts. The Silver Sword Demon sect is not here, but there is a legend about Zuyun in Silver Sword City. And it wasn't too long before Zuyun left. Yejing, Yunzhou, at the foot of Barren Rock Mountain. Sitting on a tall horse, wearing a big red flower, was a heroic young man. Behind him is the procession of sending off the bride. This is a great joy. But there were no horses on the barren stone mountain, so these people got off their horses, beat gongs and drums, and walked for more than an hour before entering the barren stone village. Worship heaven and earth. 2 Thanks to Jiaotang. Couple greetings. The simple courtyard was filled with water, and everyone in Huangshi village had a festive smile. On the first seat, Zhu Rong and his wife looked at the newlywed couple below and beamed. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 966. It's really cold. I don't know why Yayuan has been staying here. Zhang Daozun looked at the endless ice field and shivered. Even if he was a powerful person in the late stage of the tribulation, he couldn't bear the cold here. Dragon Demon King glanced at him indifferently and said, that's because you have been practicing this shitty dirty way, so your resistance to other spiritual powers is a little worse. Dragon Emperor, don't talk without any pain. Your dragon race is born with a strong demon body, and you have achieved the demon saint and did not choose to become a human race to practice again. Otherwise, I must let you try the cold here. Zhang Daozun said with a little dissatisfaction, although he knew that Dragon Demon King was telling the truth. If he didn't want to kill someone with a borrowed knife, he would not be willing to come here with Dragon Demon King. Okay, Dragon Demon King did not argue with him, but said, we have to enter the North Ice Field after rushing all the way here. It is said that Yayuan is in the northern coastal area of the North Ice Field. I think the temperature there will be lower. Let's take a good rest and go in tomorrow. Okay, this trip consumes a lot of spiritual power, and I have to replenish my dirty spiritual power. Zhang Dao Venerable agreed with Dragon Demon King's words, nodded, and found an ice cave on the edge of the ice field and drilled in. See you at this time tomorrow. After saying that, Zhang Dao Venerable laid a ban, which was exactly what Dragon Demon King wanted. He found a direction and flew more than 100 miles, then laid a dragon trap formation and hid himself in it. Taking out the fragments, he said to himself, I don't know what happened to the Kangzhou Pavilion. The black streamer should have left, right? He flashed and escaped into the fragments. Zhenlongxi then complained a little, what kind of broken place is this? Isn't it said that the spiritual world is like a fairyland? Why is it so cold? I originally thought that they would go find a strong man like Yayuan, and I would have a chance to escape. But it's so cold here that I feel like I'm going to be frozen. If I had known that it was in the outer world, I would have found a chance to steal his fragment and then hide. The red light passed, and Zhenlongxi sighed and stopped talking. In front of the Kangzhou Pavilion, the Dragon Demon King frowned and looked at the dark long sword at the door. The sword has no edge, but he felt the extremely terrifying power contained in it. The black light before, was this sword. The Dragon Demon King frowned and didn't dare to step forward rashly. After so many years, he still couldn't figure out where the Kangzhou Pavilion was. He could only guess by the difference in the flow rate of time. It was definitely not as simple as an ordinary space outside the body. If it is a world, why can't you see a star in the void? If it is not a piece of heaven and earth, then where did the sword come from? Releasing his demon consciousness, Dragon Demon Emperor carefully covered the black sword. He wanted to let the demon consciousness enter it, and wanted to see if the sword had intelligence. But no matter what method he used, no matter how much time he spent, the sword still stood still. Is it ordinary iron? Ordinary iron has no spirit, so no matter whether it is demon consciousness or spiritual consciousness, it cannot enter it. But Dragon Demon Emperor believes in his instinct. This sword is definitely not an ordinary thing. Since there is no reaction, will it not attack me? Otherwise, pull it up and see. Thinking of this, Dragon Demon Emperor took a step forward with courage and held the hilt with one hand. Buzz! The sword trembled, and Dragon Demon Emperor pulled the sword out of the ground. Good sword, good sword. Dragon Demon Emperor is a person who knows the goods, and he is comparable to the tribulation crossing stage, so he naturally feels that this sword is extraordinary. Although I can't control the demon power, I can kill all the lives in the world with the blunt blade of this sword. The Dragon Demon King was overjoyed. On the way here, he heard the Zhang master talk to him about Ye Yuan's ability. If they disagreed, he would start smashing with a hammer. I think my sword should be able to fight Ye Yuan for a few rounds. Ye Yuan's greatest reputation is his thunder immortal hammer. The Dragon Demon King's realm is not weak. With such a magical weapon, his fear of Ye Yuan disappeared in an instant. You came from the void and there is no power fluctuation, so I will call you the Void Sword. Ha ha ha. The Dragon Demon King laughed wildly, put the black sword into his ring, and then pushed the door and entered the Pearl Pavilion. The first floor was intact, the second floor was intact. But the third floor was full of various spiritual beads rolling in every corner. The wooden frame was destroyed, and there was a hole on the ground. He frowned. Was it destroyed by the black sword? But he had clearly taken the sword away at the entrance of the Pearl Pavilion. After thinking for a long time, he couldn't figure out why, so he simply put all the beads away and put them in the ring, and then left and returned to the spirit world. He had only been in the outside world for half an hour. He had agreed with Zhang Daozun to spend one day, and it was still early, so the Dragon Demon King simply calmed down and waited for time to pass. At the same time, Ye Yuan was also busy. He held the sword embryo in his hand and made a decision in his heart. This dark blue should be the original sword spirit power of the Wind and Thunder sword. You are the peerless sword. I won't help you. I can't bully the weak. This light blue is ice spirit power, which is derived from water spirit power. Although it belongs to the 5 elements, it is not the 5 elements. I won't help you with the mutated water spirit power. That's you, gold spirit power. He stretched out his hand and stroked the sword body of the sword embryo, and at the same time let his thunder spirit power flow into it. In just a moment, the deep blue and light blue power were directly annihilated under the bombardment of thunder spiritual power. Immediately, that golden touch became the dominant family, thus completely controlling the sword embryo. Many thanks for your help, Senior. Ye Yuan's soul heard a faint female voice. Thank you for what? Ye Yuan smiled slightly, used his soul to communicate with him, and said, I just think you are too weak, and I lack someone to talk to, so I helped you by the way. However, I learned from your remnant soul it seems like you were a puppet before you were refined into a sword embryo. Junior doesn't know. This golden remnant soul is naturally Sun Qiniang. After she was inspired by the puppet control demon sect to leave a mark on his soul, she naturally no longer remembered what happened next. If you don't know, forget it. I'm not interested in your past. I'm just bored in my cultivation. You can talk to me here. Ye Yuan stretched out and tapped the sword body again. In an instant, the shadow of Sun Qiniang appeared on the sword body. I am. Sun Qiniang had a surprised expression on her face. She could see herself, but felt that her body might disappear at any time. You should have died. You were almost made into a sword. But luckily you met me. No, it was the little old man who probably saved you and brought you out. Sun Qiniang looked confused and didn't understand what Ye Yuan said at all. but she knew that it was indeed Ye Yuan who saved her. In her perception, there are two other soul powers, one of which, needless to say, belongs to Jian Tianming. She didn't know why Jian Tianming could not die, but under Ye Yuan's thunder spirit power, this time he was really wiped out. The other touch is naturally a remnant soul separated from the sword spirit in the wind and thunder sword. Originally, Feng Zhen asked Feng Anhe to refine the two wind dragon swords. Actually he wanted to make the true dragon wind sword the main body. Under Feng Anhe's refining, the two swords would naturally form a connection. The true dragon wind sword, the sword spirit can also separate part of its soul into the sword embryo, and then only needs to devour the remnant soul of Sun Qiniang. Naturally, the sword embryo will no longer have intelligence and be controlled by the true dragon wind sword. But no one could have calculated that the souls of Sun Qiniang and Jian Tianming had been fighting for almost their whole lives, and neither of them died completely. This makes the sword spirit of the true dragon wind sword unable to attack, and after entering the sword body, a three-legged situation is formed, and no one can do anything to the other. Because no matter how Feng Anhe refined it, he could not go any further, thus allowing Sun Qiniang's remnant soul to remain until now. It was fate that allowed Ye Yuan to stay. In the end, with his help, the remaining souls in the two sword embryos finally dispersed. Sun Qiniang only knew that Ye Yuan saved her, and she didn't know anything else. After recovering for a moment, she used her shadow to give Ye Yuan a slight blessing. "Thank you, Senior, for saving your life. Qiniang has nothing to repay." Ye Yuan laughed and said, "You are just a ray of remnant soul, you don't even have a body, so I naturally don't expect you to retaliate. And you can easily die without the sword now, so you just stay here to talk to me. Maybe when I can transcend the tribulation and ascend, I will take you to the fairy world to see the world." Ye Yuan has always been in a good mood, and he is fearless in the spiritual world and speaks without restraint. But these words shock Sun Qiniang beyond measure. "I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills." Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 967. Talking about transcending the tribulation and ascending to heaven, could it be the spirit world? Sun Qiniang is also very intelligent, but she always thinks of Zuyun, so sometimes she acts eccentrically. Now that she is alive again, she naturally pays more attention to her situation. "Senior, is this place the spirit world?" "Of course," Ye Yuan laughed. "Why, you are not from the spirit world." "Senior, Qiniang's last memory stayed at the Jindan stage, so she is naturally not from the spirit world." Sun Qiniang's face was bitter, and her mind was full of the scene when she resolutely left Zuyun. "I wanted to prove that I would not be a burden to Zuyun with swordsmanship, but who would have thought that after waking up, I appeared in the spirit world. And this senior who saved me, talking about transcending the tribulation and ascending to heaven, I think he must be a supreme strong man." Ye Yuan looked at Sun Qiniang's expression, touched his chin, and didn't feel it was strange in his heart. He naturally understood the empty wind in the Sword Valley. This family, which has been proving the Dao through sword refining, has a long history and has branches in all the major mortal worlds. It seems that the sword body brought from the lower world was used for sword refining, and then it happened to catch up with Feng Zhen, who wanted to break into the immortal platform. "It doesn't matter where it is," Ye Yuan waved his hand and said, "people always have to look forward. It is meaningless to stay in the past. Now that your residual soul is not stable, you should rest and recuperate well to make your soul stronger. Otherwise, you will be tired after talking to me for a few words, and then there is no point in me saving you." Ye Yuan is not a person who meddles in other people's business. The task that Ye Yang gave him was just to keep an eye on Wuxing Sanren. Now that Wuxing Sanren is dead, he still stays in the lower world for Lu Ruyan. Only when Lu Ruyan is found and Lu Ruyan is cultivated to the stage of crossing the tribulation, he will take Lu Ruyan with him and fly away together. But Sun Qiniang's next words made Ye Yuan stunned. Senior, my soul has grown stronger. Can I still restore my human body? Sun Qinyang lowered her head and looked at her own shadow, but she couldn't touch it. What's the point of restoring my human body? Ye Yuan said lightly, you have been refined into a sword body, from a living being to a dead thing. Dead things will not die, so you are immortal. Immortality. Sun Qinyang shook her head and said, this kind of immortality is not what I want. If I become this dead thing, I might as well die. Little girl, I don't know what the mortal world is like, but in this spiritual world, everyone is pursuing immortality. You are obviously an immortal body, why do you have to return to the human body to practice? When your soul grows stronger, the soul body can be substantial in the future, no different from the original body. But then, I can no longer practice swordsmanship, right? Because then, I can only be a sword. Sun Qinyang's words made Ye Yuan stunned. He thought of Ye Yang. Before practicing, his father was also an immortal body. He told himself that when he learned about this situation, he had never thought about practicing. In his words, since he was immortal, why would he practice to be a hammer immortal? But in the end, he practiced to be an immortal with a hammer. And all this was because he wanted to avenge his mother. So, do you have an unfulfilled wish? Ye Yuan looked into Sun Qinyang's eyes and asked. Wish? Yes, I have an unfulfilled wish. Please fulfill it, senior. Sun Qinyang knelt down. Hey. Ye Yuan was a sentimental person, otherwise he would not have helped Feng Anhe and sent him away. With a sigh, Ye Yuan said, I do have a way, but this will require inhuman pain. Are you willing? Yes, Qinyang is willing. Hearing this, Sun Qinyang's heart trembled and she said quickly. I'll say it again, are you willing to endure inhuman pain? Yes. Sun Qinyang continued to respond without any hesitation. Okay. Ye Yuan clapped his hands and said, this sword embryo is made from your sword body. If you want to return to your human body, you need to transform this sword body back again. And in this process, you will endure great pain. If you have a slight slack in your mind, you will immediately die. Even if my parents come down from the fairyland to help, I am afraid they will be powerless to save the situation. So, have you thought it through? I have thought it through. Sun Qinyang fell down and said, Senior, I will never forget your kindness. Okay. Ye Yuan also stood up and took out his thunder immortal hammer at the same time, saying, then you will return to the sword embryo, and I will use this hammer to knock the sword body into your shape. I said this in advance so that you can be prepared. My hammer is called Thunder Immortal Hammer. Because the thunder power in it is the thunder of the fairy. Qinyang, don't be afraid. Thank you, senior. Sun Qinyang left a firm word and then got into the sword embryo. Good, good. You are such a true-hearted woman. If my mother were here, she would definitely accept you as her apprentice. A hint of admiration flashed across Ye Yuan's eyes, but then turned into solemnity. What he was going to use next was called the body-shaping hammer method, which was originally used for forging tools, but he was a man of outstanding talent and inherited his mother's wisdom. If he understood one principle, then he would understand everything. But the premise is that Sun Qinyang can bear it? I'm starting. Ye Yuan squatted down, pressed one hand on the sword embryo, raised the hammer with the other hand, and knocked it down fiercely. Zi La. The fairy thunder flashed and quickly disappeared into the hammering position. At the same time, Sun Qinyang's muffled groan was heard from the sword embryo. But Ye Yuan didn't show any strange expression. Once the body-shaping hammering technique started, there was no possibility of stopping halfway. Either, hammer Sun Qinyang to death. Or, hammer the sword embryo back into Sun Qinyang's body. Gradually, Sun Qinyang lost her voice. It was unknown whether her residual soul could not bear the hammering and fainted, or whether she was already dead. Even Ye Yuan didn't know. Only after the hammering was completed, the result would be known. But how easy was it to hammer the sword embryo back into Sun Qinyang's delicate body? This hammering lasted for 20 hours. Ye Yuan's thunder spirit power was not much consumed, but more of his soul power. Even though he had reached the tribulation period early, he could only grit his teeth and persevere. But looking at the lifelike Sun Qinyang in front of him, who seemed to be carved out of life, Ye Yuan also felt a sense of pride in his heart. If this method succeeds, then if Lu Ruyan encounters trouble in the future, as long as her residual soul is preserved, he can also reshape her body for her. This is not as simple as the body reshaping in the mortal world. Luo Yanran had experienced it once, but it was replaced by a very spiritual object, and after the reshaping, the body would have some after effects. But this body reshaping hammer method will not. Seeing that it was only a few hammers away from being completed, suddenly a deep male voice came through the ice and snow. Is Daiyu Ye Yuan here? Kunlun Demon Dragon Peak, the Dragon Demon King is here to visit. If it was an ordinary voice, it would naturally not be transmitted into the formation here. So this is the use of spiritual power to transmit sound. Ye Yuan was slightly distracted and almost missed the target with the hammer. When he was annoyed, the voice of Zhang Daozun also sounded. Daiyu Ye, how are you? My old friend, I want to see you. Suddenly, Ye Yuan's heart sank. At that time, I had lost all my spiritual power and almost failed to save Zhu Yun. But now, he came here again, and brought the Dragon Demon King with him. Could it be that he wanted to take the opportunity to hurt me? Fortunately, my spiritual power has long been restored, and now it is only the loss of the Yuan Shen. But if it is 1 against 2, it may be a bit difficult. After pondering, Ye Yuan decided to ignore it for the time being and deal with the last few hammers before making plans. Unexpectedly, his silence made the two people outside think that Ye Yuan was not here. Dirty thing, you said that Ye Yuan bombarded the ascension platform at that time, and then took that kid away. Now he is not here, could he find a place to recover? The Dragon King asked Zhang Daozun. It's possible, Zhang Daozun's target was Zhu Yun, thinking that it would be impossible for a tribulation stage to let a kid in the god transformation stage protect him, right? Then naturally, Zhu Yun would stay in his hiding place. If so, it couldn't be better. So he said, why don't we help fellow Daoist Ye to clear the snow in front of his door, so that he can wait for him to come back. Okay. Although the Dragon Demon King has the Chaos Sword in his hand, he can use it as a trump card to fight against the Thunder Hammer. But at least, he doesn't want to be his enemy. Doing so may win Ye Yuan's favor. So he waved his hand, and the pure dragon power, mixed with the imperceptible demon power, immediately lifted the layers of thick snow here. Then, he pinched a few spells in his hand, and no more snow fell on the snow slope here. A deep ice cave appeared in front of the two people. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 968. It seems like there is a sound coming. Without the snow to offset the sound, Ye Yuan's rhythmic hammering sound came out one after another. It seems like there is a hammer hitting something, why don't we go in and take a look? The Dragon Demon King's heart sank, and he made a plan. Anyway, let Zhang Daozun go in front, even if Ye Yuan was disturbed, it has nothing to do with him. At most, in order to show his sincerity, he beat up Zhang Daozun, which is not a big deal. The two of them calculated each other, and neither of them noticed it, and they also had their own plans, which formed this delicate relationship now. Zhang Daozun just wanted to find Zhu Yun, so he walked straight into the cave entrance. Although they were not proficient in the art of formation, they also saw that there was a natural formation here, and even some powerful people in the spirit world knew this fact. Since Zhang Daozun was able to find this cave, Even if he didn't understand it, he knew something. The formation here will not hurt people. So, he walked without fear. Dragon Demon King followed behind, and the two of them entered the formation in an instant. It's really strange, he is obviously cultivating thunder spirit power, but he is in this ice and snow formation. Dragon Demon King looked around, looking at those pillar-like ice milk pillars, he felt a little strange. How could they know that the reason why Yayuan chose this place was because although the north ice field was covered with ice and snow, it was dry and dry. This kind of place was much more convenient for him to cultivate immortal thunder than anywhere else in the spirit world. Moreover, there were few creatures here, and Yayuan was not afraid that ordinary creatures would come and affect him. Yayuan acts just like his father, and ordinary people really can't understand it. Zhang Daozun shook his head, but in his heart he couldn't help but think of Yayuan smashing the Five Elements Wanderer to death. In theory, if Yayuan had a life and death feud with the other party, he would kill him, not to mention that all the sects and forces in Tianyi hated the Five Elements sect to the bone. But Yayuan just didn't move, and didn't care how the Five Elements Wanderer practiced. But the moment he entered the outer world, they came immediately and killed him without any nonsense. In the end, they even destroyed the Ascension platform. There is a motive for everything, but Yayuan's behavior is too unreasonable. Wuxing Sanren has a grudge against Yayong and his wife. Their sudden ascension was an accident, but I have heard of the son paying for the father's debt, but I have rarely seen the son avenging the father's hatred. Could it be because Yayong and his wife are fine? Zhang Daozun was puzzled. But in fact, he didn't want to solve it. He had no grudge against the Ye family. Dirty thing, do you think Yayuan is in there? As the Dragon Demon King walked, he suddenly found that the hammering sound had stopped, so he asked Zhang Daozun. I don't know, Zhang Daozun stopped and said, if he was there, why didn't he respond? And we cleared the snow in front of the door, and he didn't respond. But if he wasn't there, who made the hammering sound? Why did it suddenly stop? Forget it, never mind. Anyway, this emperor came here with no ill intentions. It's impossible for Yayuan to hurt me for no reason, right? The Dragon Demon King also shook his head. Compared with Zhang Daozun, he had never had any dealings with the Ye family, let alone hatred. The two of them fell silent. In addition to the disappearance of the hammering sound, there was no sound in the ice cave. Yayuan panted heavily, looking at the body in front of him that was exactly the same as Sun Qiniang, and murmured, the body has been shaped. Whether you can wake up depends on your luck. When I recover for a while, I will meet the two people outside. After that, he actually reached into the hammer, took out a black pill from it, and then swallowed it directly. The pill melted in his mouth, but after a moment, he opened his eyes again, and his pupils turned purple. After a long time, the purple color completely faded, and his pupils returned to normal black. At this time, Yayuan's soul was also fully recovered. The Dragon Emperor and I are strangers, and he came with Zhang Daozun. It is obvious that he is not here with good intentions. It is also because he did not come earlier or later, and came back when my soul was so damaged. Otherwise, I would not have to eat this pill sent by my father. If there were others here, they would be extremely surprised. Yayong has become an immortal, and he can actually send pills to Yayuan. After muttering, Yayuan took the Thunder Immortal Hammer and walked out of the cave. The ice cave is very deep, and there are also natural formations. After Yayuan took a few steps, the scene in front of him suddenly changed. In the eyes of Zhang Daozun and Dragon Demon Emperor, he seemed to appear out of thin air, which scared them both. Yeah, fellow Daoist, yeah. You are in the cave? Zhang Daozun hurriedly stopped and greeted him. He thought that Yayuan was not here, and he could do whatever he wanted as long as he met Zuyun. But Yayuan's sudden appearance caught him off guard. The Dragon Demon Emperor also said politely, "Fellow deist Yayuan, I have heard of your great name for a long time." "You are too polite, Dragon Emperor." Yayuan waved his hand casually and said lightly, "What are you two here for?" The Dragon Demon Emperor went straight to the point and said, "No one comes to visit you for no reason. Fellow deist Yayuan, I heard from fellow deist Zhang that although you have been in the spirit world for a short time, your parents have ascended to heaven. I think you are knowledgeable, so I have a request. I would like to ask fellow deist Ye to solve my doubts. I will be grateful." Yayuan glanced at Zhang Daozun and said, "Then are you here for Zuyun?" "No, no." Facing this sharp look, Zhang Daozun hastily denied it. Yayuan was not only imposing, but also did not look weak at all. At the same time, he was caught off guard by the question. How could he dare to admit it? "Humph," Yayuan snorted coldly, and said, "Zuyun is my friend. I told you before that if you touch Zuyun, you will be an enemy of me, Yayuan. I hope you can take care of yourself." After that, he stretched out his hand towards the corner of the ice cave and said, "Dragon Emperor, we are over there. If you have any questions, I will tell you everything as long as I know." Dragon Demon Emperor was overjoyed and thanked him as he walked, but he didn't know that this was the beginning of Yayuan's division between him and Zhang Daozun. Others didn't understand Zhang Daozun, but he knew it very well. His mother Qiu Linjian said more than once that Zhang Daozun acted strangely. Don't look at him as a casual cultivator, not attached to any sect. In fact, this is to facilitate his actions. Be careful when you meet him in the future. So, Yayuan would step on one and praise the other. This attitude made the Dragon Emperor flattered, and naturally the two of them formed an opposing trend. "Fellow deist Ye, do you know that Kunlun, Tianweishan has landed?" Yayuan smiled slightly and said, "Of course I know, I hammered it." The Dragon Demon Emperor took a breath and said in disbelief, "Fellow deist Ye, didn't you say that you hammered the Ascension platform? How come?" "Dragon Emperor," Yayuan said lightly, "why has the Ascension platform appeared in Tianweishan over the years, not the Five Elements sect, let alone the Nine Netherworld?" "I don't know." The Dragon Demon Emperor also said frankly. "That's right, since he arrived in the spirit world, he has been practicing with all his heart. Just refining 7 Dragon Balls took him countless days to achieve his current strength. The rules of the Ascension platform, I think the Dragon Emperor knows it, right?" "Yes, as long as the cultivators below the Tribulation Crossing stage, or the demon cultivators or magic cultivators below the corresponding realm, as long as they pass the test, they can directly ascend to the immortal realm." "That's right," Yayuan said with a smile, "the Ascension platform appears in the heaven beyond heaven. Demon cultivators and cultivators can enter it for the test, even magic cultivators can. Then why not alternately appear in the heaven beyond heaven and the 9 netherworlds?" This question stumped the Dragon Demon Emperor. "Also, do you know, why no one from the Five Elements sect has ever participated in the test of the outer heaven? Could it be?" The Dragon Demon Emperor pondered for a moment and said, "Is it because of the relationship between the several transcendent forces in the outer heaven?" Yayuan sneered and said, "If the entire Five Elements sect is mobilized, they can destroy the outer heaven. Even if they can't destroy it, it's normal to get a share of those transcendent forces, right? Why do they still want to practice the skills that progress very slowly?" The Dragon Demon Emperor shook his head again. He didn't know anything about what Yayuan said. Because of this, his idea was to follow Yayuan. Seeing this, the Zhang Dao Venerable next to him couldn't help but struggle in his heart, whether to secretly leave his soul and enter the depths of the ice cave to see if Zuyun was inside. This place is extremely dark. He practices the Zhang Dao, which is also black, and it is extremely difficult to be discovered. Warm reminder, if you find that clicking the next page will force you to jump to other websites, please use the chapter error or contact us at the bottom to inform us. we will handle it as soon as possible. Thank you for your understanding. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 969. While Ye Yuan was playing coy with the Dragon Demon King, Zhang Daozun finally moved. He looked like he was sitting cross-legged on the ground, as if in a trance. In fact, his soul had left his body and, under the cover of the dark ice cave, he walked towards the depths along the side of the ice wall. He just wanted to confirm whether Zuyun was here so that he could make a plan. If Zuyun was not there, there was no need for him to take a risk and turn against Ye Yuan. In order to meet the two, Ye Yuan had already removed the formation restrictions, which allowed Zhang Daozun's soul to escape into it. It was also because Ye Yuan's things were all in the Thunder Immortal Hammer, and there was nothing else in the ice cave, that he was so careless. Because of this, Zhang Daozun's soul gradually went deeper and soon found the true Dragon Wind Sword and Sun Qiniang, who had been shaped into a human body. However, no matter how you look at Sun Qiniang at this time, she is just a sculpture. Hey, this sword, this sculpture. Looking at the majestic wind spiritual power of the true Dragon Wind Sword and the mixed thunder spiritual power, Zhang Daozun immediately determined that this was the sword that Feng Zhen had been looking for in Tianhui Tian, and the thunder spiritual power in it was exactly the same as the aura on Ye Yuan's body. Could it be that Ye Yuan stole this sword? Could it be that he had already arrived in Tianhui Tian? Zhang Daozun couldn't help but wonder about Ye Yuan's motives. But he is not a sword cultivator, what does he want this sword for? And this sculpture, under the Yuan Shen, has an extremely beautiful face, but it is very unfamiliar, and he has never seen such a female cultivator in the spirit world. Strange, could this sculpture have a spirit? Thinking of Ye Yuan's father, Ye Yang, and the demon fox became a Taoist couple and gave birth to Ye Yuan, then Ye Yuan carved a woman he wanted himself, so that she would have spiritual wisdom and become a spiritual cultivator. No wonder, he reached the late stage of the tribulation early, but stayed in the spirit world for a long time, which makes some sense. This father and son are really a pair of strange things. Zhang Daozun said secretly in his heart, preparing to withdraw his soul. This is the deepest part of the ice cave. Apart from the sculpture and the wind and thunder sword, Zuyun's figure is not found, so he needs to be patient for the time being, and his soul must go back as soon as possible. If Ye Yuan finds out, it will be more trouble than gain. Unexpectedly, at this moment, Sun Qiniang suddenly opened her eyes, and two golden rays burst out of her eyes, quickly illuminating the entire ice cave. At the same time, a huge vitality also rushed out along the passage of the ice cave. For a while, this dark soul had nowhere to hide. What is this? Seeing a black mass of things that were still squirming on the ground, Sun Qiniang's beautiful eyes condensed, and she reached out to pick up the wind and thunder sword. With a flash of her body, she stabbed it with the sword. Not good. Zhang Daozun was horrified. It was not because he was afraid of Sun Qiniang, but no matter how he responded, or whether he killed Sun Qiniang, the commotion would definitely alarm Ye Yuan. With Ye Yuan's temper, he would start hammering if he disagreed with him, and he would never reason with him. In a flash, Zhang Daozun didn't care too much, and his mind was full of thoughts about getting the soul back to the body. The soul retreated quickly like a tide, but Sun Qiniang's body had just recovered. Although she was still in the realm of the Jindan period, and had not yet refined the wind and thunder sword into her own spiritual sword, she was a sword body, and her swordsmanship naturally needed no further explanation. Even if her spiritual power was insufficient, her swordsmanship was so exquisite that it was more than enough to deal with the soul of Zhang Daozun, who fled in panic. The first sword almost hit the soul where the golden light reached. Boom! The ice cave shook. Ye Yuan, who was still surprised that Sun Qinyang had woken up, immediately left Dragon Demon King behind and rushed to the depths of the ice cave. Fellow deist yet. Dragon Demon King was surprised. He subconsciously glanced at the Zhang Dao master, but found that his eyes were closed. He had not opened his eyes despite the noise. He concentrated his demon consciousness and sent a stream of it over. He immediately found that only the body was left. The soul had already left the body. Although the noise inside was not big, it was obvious that something was discovered. The dirty things were still useful. I should help him cover up. Thinking of this, Dragon Demon King carefully took out the Chaos Sword and inserted it behind his waist. Then he followed Ye Yuan into the ice cave. Dragon Emperor, what's the matter? Seeing that Dragon Emperor had also followed, Ye Yuan asked without looking back. Fellow deist Ye is so nervous, I want to see if I can help. As the Dragon Demon Emperor said this, he looked into the depths of the ice cave, and suddenly saw a black shadow, and then jumped up and deliberately blocked Ye Yuan's sight. Seeing this, the Yuan Shen of Zhang Daozun was overjoyed and took the opportunity to hide. He was afraid of running into Ye Yuan head-on. Ye Yuan said coldly, "This is my residence. You followed me without my consent. I'm afraid you are plotting something bad, right?" Fellow deist Ye, what are you talking about? I'm worried that something might happen in your cave, so I want to help you, right? The Dragon Emperor deliberately laughed twice. Since Zhang Daozun's Yuan Shen had retreated, he naturally didn't need to follow him. He could ask Zhang Daozun what happened inside. But at this moment, the golden light came again. A golden sword energy swept past the two of them and chased after Zhang Daozun. In the eyes of the two, the speed of this sword energy was extremely slow. The Dragon Demon King had been trying to cover for Zhang Daozun. If this sword light passed, it would definitely lead Ye Yuan's sight and thus discover Zhang Daozun. The Dragon Demon King's mind was like lightning. He immediately turned around and blocked Ye Yuan again. At the same time, he pulled out the Chaos Sword. Where did the ant come from to cause trouble in fellow deist Ye's cave? Having said that, the Chaos Sword had already slashed down towards the sword light. If it were still the original true Dragon Wind Sword, facing the Dragon Demon Emperor's slash, it would definitely be cut in two. But after being tempered by the Thunder Immortal power, the Wind and Thunder Sword, which was originally a peerless sword, is no longer the same. This sword destroyed the golden light, but it did not destroy the Wind and Thunder Sword. Just a clang was heard, gold and iron clashed, the sound resounded throughout the ice cave, and the Wind and Thunder Sword was chopped straight to the ground. Sun Qinyang was also immediately thrown away by the huge demonic power that surged through her. Ye Yuan was furious. I finally rescued Sun Qinyang, but after all the effort I put into it, you couldn't help but hurt me with a single sword blow. Is this okay? Besides, this is still my cave, how dare you turn your back on me? Dragon King, if I give you face, you are the Dragon King, if I don't give you face, you are the Insect King. Are you going to beat my people without asking? You are looking for death. Ye Yuan Kong made a fist, and when the Thunder Immortal Hammer appeared in his hand, Ye Yuan had already smashed it. The Dragon Demon Emperor was shocked. All he knew about Ye Yuan were hearsay and introductions from the Zhang Dao master, but he never thought that he would start a fight after just one curse. In desperation, he struck out with a backhand sword and raised the Chaos Sword to block it in front of him. Boom! The Chaos Sword is an immortal sword, but the Thunder Immortal Hammer is not a mortal thing either. The thunder power in it is extremely close to the immortal power. And the Dragon Demon Emperor cannot truly control the Chaos Sword. Under this situation, the Chaos Sword is not weak, but the Thunder Immortal Hammer does not take advantage either. But it was better to strike first, and Ye Yuan took the advantage. All the endless thunder light poured out, and the huge power generated splashed towards the Dragon Demon Emperor. Not good. The Dragon Demon King only felt his right hand numb, so he hurriedly stretched out his left hand, turned into a dragon claw and slapped Lei Mang. Zi La. The dragon demon emperor flew backwards, and the dragon scales on his entire left arm were completely burnt black. Yun, what do you mean? The dragon demon emperor was furious and extremely shocked. Such strong thunder power penetrated his dragon armor, but the void sword unscathed. Why do I, Yun, need to explain to you what I am doing? Dragon Emperor, you are not welcome here, go back. Yun snorted coldly, and then looked at Sun Qiniang, only to see that she fell into a coma again. After finally reviving and reshaping his body, the result was like this, which made Yun extremely angry. If not, he would definitely hammer the Dragon Emperor to death here if he still wanted to save Sun Qiniang. Yun, I didn't expect you to be so domineering. The Dragon Demon King fell, and after he stood firm, he tightened the Chaos Sword in his hand, turned his head and looked at the Zhangdao Venerable, and saw that his soul had returned to his position, so he said in a cold voice, I originally made friends with you with good intentions, and sincerely yes, but I don't want you to fall out at all. In this case, there is nothing to say. If I don't kill you today, how can I gain a foothold in Tianweishan? Seeing the murderous intent of the Dragon King, Master Zhangdao immediately thought in his mind that if he killed him and then went to find Zhu Yun, no one would be able to stop him. It's just right to join forces with him and get what we need. Immediately, Zhangdao Master also took a step forward and stood with the Dragon Demon Emperor. It goes without saying. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 970. Do you want to fight with me? Yun squinted his eyes, but didn't take it too seriously. Because he took the elixir, his soul was almost restored to its peak state. Moreover, before that, he also restored all the thunder power in his body. Once again, we are on our home court, with the right time, right place, and right people. The only reason why he didn't want to fight was because he was worried about Sun Qiniang's safety. The Emperor said that I wanted to make friends with you, but you are too domineering. The Dragon Demon King glared angrily. His left claw had turned into a human hand again, but his skin was still charred. And you? Yun looked at Zhangdao Zun again, his sharp eyes seemed to see him through, and he couldn't help but dodge his eyes. The Zhangdao master was shocked in his heart. He secretly thought that since he had decided to fight life and death, he could no longer be weak. So he puffed up his chest and said, the Dragon King is right, you Yun are too domineering. This spiritual world is not you have the final say. All the hidden powers who had good relations with the Ye family have ascended. He, Yun, had no help even if he thought about it, so what did he have to fear? Ha ha ha. Yun laughed wildly, and the laughter kept echoing in the ice cave. Dirty thing, just tell me for Zhu Yun's sake, why hide it? You want to kill me, Yun? Then use your skills. After saying that, Yun hit a hammer from the air. The huge Thunder Immortal power gushes out from the Thunder Immortal hammer, splits into two in an instant, and attacks each other. Well done. The Dragon Demon Emperor snorted coldly and thrust the Chaos Sword forward. He was extremely sure that this black sword from the void could block the power of Thunder Immortal. But Zhangdao Venerable found it a bit difficult to deal with it. He knew Yun was very strong, but he didn't expect him to be this strong. Stop it! He roared in shock, stretched out his hands to draw an arc in front of him, and used his dirty spiritual power to form a black curtain, trying to block the blow. But how did he know that the essence of the spiritual power of the Zhangdao is evil thoughts, but the immortal thunder from the upper world can remove all filth in the world? The Thunder Immortal power in the Thunder Immortal hammer is purer than the Thunder Spirit power in Yun. Boom! The black curtain was immediately annihilated and dissipated in the ice cave. The master of the Zhangdao was also hit in the chest, and a flesh hole with two transparent ends appeared in his chest. Not a trace of blood flowed out. That's it? Ye Yuan sneered disdainfully, and then faced the Dragon Demon Emperor and bullied him. The Thunder Immortal Hammer was unreasonable and struck straight down without any moves. Look at my Void Sword. The Dragon Demon King gathered endless demon power and slashed his sword horizontally, targeting Ye Yuan's hammer-holding wrist. Sword of Nothingness. Ha! Ye Yuan's face showed ridicule. Lightning suddenly appeared on his body, and his speed suddenly increased. As soon as the lightning struck, Ye Yuan's Thunder Immortal Hammer had already hit the Dragon Demon Emperor's head. Clang! But the Dragon Demon Emperor is not an easy person to get along with. If he hides his strength, he can draw a tie with the Zhangdao Master. With all his strength will not be much weaker than Ye Yuan. In the midst of lightning and flint, the Dragon Demon King withdrew the Chaos Sword and placed it in front of his forehead, just in time to block this domineering strike. The response is very fast. A flash of admiration flashed in Ye Yuan's eyes, but it quickly disappeared. With the power of this hammer, he half-twirled his body and raised his legs to kick towards the Dragon Demon Emperor's chest. Snort! The Dragon Demon King exhaled a breath of turbid air through his nose, and grabbed the ankle with his left hand. But he forgot that his left hand was scorched black and had been injured by the thunder power. No matter how fast he reacted, he was still a step too slow. Bang! With Ye Yuan's kick, the Dragon Demon King flew out of the ice cave like a kick stone. It's your turn next. Ye Yuan did not take advantage of the victory to pursue him. He needed to deal with the Zhangdao Master first. Although the Zhangdao Master's strength is not taken seriously by him, he is still at the peak of the late stage of tribulation. He is possessed of Zhangdao magical powers, unpredictable, and his body skills are unpredictable. He has never really fought against him. The strength and reaction of the Dragon Demon King, as well as the Chaos Sword, forced Ye Yuan to deal with it carefully. In order to prevent the Zhangdao Lord from following behind and causing trouble and distracting him, he had to kill the Zhangdao Lord first. Die! Ye Yuan's body flashed, and the Thunder Immortal Hammer hit the head of the Zhangdao Venerable. But even though Zhangdao Zun has a bloody hole in his chest, he will not let Ye Yuan slaughter him. The top priority is to retreat to the side of the Dragon Demon Emperor. He was like a ghost, his whole person turned into a black mist, and he hurriedly dodged away. But this happened to fall into Ye Yuan's plan. The hammer is a feint. Hey hey! Ye Yuan smiled evilly and punched with his bare hands. Thunder Fist. Endless thunder power came out from his fist, quickly forming a ball of lightning, and blasted towards the black mist. Boom! 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 It was no longer a simple sound of explosion. The black mist was immediately blown to pieces by the explosive power of Thunder Immortal power. In just one breath, the black mist dissipated, and the master of the Zhangdao was lying on the ground of the ice field covered in blood. Can you handle this without dying? Ye Yuan was a little surprised again. Go after the Dragon Demon Emperor first. If he catches his breath, I'm afraid it will be difficult to deal with him again. Ye Yuan didn't have a single hit to kill, and it was impossible to continue wasting time here. He simply pinched the formation formula and activated the natural formation in the ice cave. He quickly chased out of the ice cave and ran towards outside. Ye Yuan, suffer death. Who would have thought that the Dragon Demon King had already transformed into his true form, a giant dragon several miles long, facing the entrance of the ice cave with its bloody mouth open. Ye Yuan came out too quickly and was unprepared, so he was swallowed into the mouth by the Dragon Demon Emperor. Damn it! Ye Yuan was shocked. He almost forgot that the Dragon Demon Emperor was a demon. And after transforming into his true form, the aura revealed made him a little scared. If it is swallowed, it will probably lead to death. Why is this demon dragon so strong? Ye Yuan didn't know that the Dragon Demon Emperor had swallowed the 7 dragon beads in the Immortal Mansion. This is the most precious spiritual bead that even immortal emperors would collect. How could it be a mortal thing? Even though Ye Yuan was extremely talented, and Ye Yang, who had ascended, occasionally supported the Immortals, in fact, the Dragon Demon Emperor was not weaker than him at all. But the Dragon Demon Emperor is only too powerful. Therefore, even if he holds Ye Yuan in his mouth, that's all. Unless, he can swallow Ye Yuan into his belly. Ye Yuan also knew this very well. He stepped on the dragon's tongue with his foot and supported his palate with his hand, as if he was standing upright, competing with the Dragon Demon Emperor. But the Zhangdao master is also suffering from endless pain and may die at any time. Because after the ice cave formation is activated, all the ice milk pillars will turn into thunder. Under normal circumstances, it would be extremely difficult for the sky thunder to hurt him. But he was dying, and his spiritual power was scattered all over his body. These thunders seemed to be possessed by thousands of ants, which only accelerated the loss of spiritual power. Could it be that I'm going to die? The Zhangdao Venerable was unwilling to give up. No, I can't die. I have practiced so far, and I can't fall short here. Seize my body, I want to seize my body. He struggled to get up and looked at Sun Qiniang, who was also lying on the ground with her life and death unknown. This girl who has taken away her body can only rebuild her strength from the pill formation stage, and she can't even escape from this ice cave thunder formation. But I can't just sit here and wait for death. Only by living can I have hope. Thinking of this, Master Zhangdao quickly escaped from his body. At this level, as long as his soul is not injured, his actions are no different from those of ordinary people. A black shadow quickly condensed into a human form. Without a physical body, the soul can easily avoid these incoming sky thunders. Ye Yuan, you and I are at odds with each other, wow. Putting down the cruel words, the soul quickly penetrated into Sun Qiniang's eyebrows. But before arriving at Zi Mansion, the Zhangdao master let out an extremely frightening scream. No. No. Why can't I take it away during the den formation stage? For a moment, there was no sound in the ice cave. No one knew that it was actually impossible for Sun Qiniang to be taken away from her again. Whoever takes him away will die. This is why the sword spirit of the true dragon wind sword cannot swallow the remaining soul of Sun Qiniang no matter what. Just because her repeated entanglement with Jian Tianming was no different than taking over her body. I don't know Feng Zhen, and I don't know Feng Anhe even more. So they couldn't refine the sword embryo into the secondary sword of the true dragon wind sword. Because the true dragon wind sword is also made from the body of a human sword. Unless, they directly erase the remaining soul of Sun Qiniang and refine it into a sword. According to the laws of heaven, whoever dares to take the body of a person whose body has been taken away once will be directly wiped out by the rules of heaven. The master of the Zhangdao died like this. And the endless Zhangdao spiritual power turned into ownerless power and poured into Sun Qiniang's 9 veins.